Hey everyone, it's Tim again here, and I finally got a replacement phone, so no more fuzzy camera or me making funny faces as I stare into the camera, hoping that it registers me correctly because I'm staring at a black screen and I can't see myself. But, anyways, I was just reading online and I found something that pretty much everyone knows by now. This whole situation with Greg Locke. I've actually seen a lot of people rejoicing and celebrating and even mocking Greg for his fall from grace. I mean, yes, I do know the direction he went, and no, I don't agree with it, but honestly, you want to be very careful about celebrating when a pastor falls. Because if someone has the name pastor in front of their name, whether you like it or not, if you're a Christian, they're representative of you. So the world is going to look at them and they're going to expect you to be the same way. Also, when you think about it, it's kind of sad, especially if you're like me, who's huge into deliverance and does follow and support the demon slayers. With me, the pastor I follow the most happens to be Vladimir Savchuk. But anyways, Greg used to contribute a lot to him, and somewhere he kind of forgot what he was doing, which there's actually three warning signs for a pastor. If you're in the congregations, you need to look for. And honestly, if you're a pastor, it would do really good. The Sorry, still can't talk. It would be very good for you to pay attention to these warning signs and try to see if you have any of them in yourself. First off, first warning sign is you start making up certain definitions for things. Like the main one now seems to be claiming that any mental disability like Down syndrome, autism, is not a disability, but it's demonization. That's not always the case. And a lot of times that's not God's voice telling you that, it's yours. Second is if you start isolating yourself with people, or if you start surrounding yourself with people who only agree with you. If you pay close attention, Greg's biggest sorry, the biggest stumble Greg had was when he started his whole argument with Daniel Adams. How he was accusing Daniel of witchcraft and telling everyone to stay away from Daniel, even though Greg was actually hanging out with and even interviewing the same person that he was going off on Daniel for. Not only that, but he did something very similar to the Warrens recently. He and it kind of caught them off guard. They didn't know that he had a problem with them. He just kind of told them not to come to church anymore, then started screaming that they're witches. But at the same time, and so if he starts kicking people out or just starts even starting arguments with people who don't fully agree with him because they don't agree, and the pastor insists that they have to agree, there's something wrong. They've lost their vision. It's once again about them. Which brings me to my third warning. The best way to describe this is to reiterate a line from a movie I seen that was titled Prophet Suddenly. It's a Christian thriller on YouTube, but there's a there's a scene in there when the main character goes to an apostle and they're talking, and the apostle ends up saying, when the main when the main vision of the when the main purpose of the ministry becomes I've been praying, I heard this, I can I prophesy, then that pastor is at a crossroads. He will either yield to the Holy Spirit or he will yield to fallen self. You see, a lot of times pastors think they're listening to God and they have good intentions. However, it is very possible for self to get in the way and to start preaching on your own merit instead of what God gave you, which honestly, that's what happened with Greg Locke. And I pray for every pastor listening, and honestly for every person listening as well, because most likely you're going to end up teaching at least one other person that this does not happen to you. That's all I have for this time. See you guys next time. Bye.